Rey's POV. The cockpit smelled like jet fuel and burnt coffee, which, honestly, was my comfort zone. I had the checklist spread out, headset around my neck, and a half-empty energy drink sweating beside the throttle. Everything was perfect, until I heard his voice. "Captain Maddox, we've got a fuel calibration issue on Jet 12. Aziel Carter, of course. The clipboard guy. The man with perfect posture, a voice calm enough to lull a storm, and that infuriating habit of never raising his damn tone. He stood near the steps, reflective vest zipped to his throat, flight systems tablet tucked under his arm like it was part of him. The onboard as well as ground engineer, always where the turbulence waited to happen. His eyes flicked up, steady, assessing, like he was looking straight through me. Not at me. I didn't even bother hiding my groan. You're always this uptight. Or is it just me? He didn't even blink. If I were uptight, you wouldn't still be alive to piss me off. A couple of the mechanics nearby tried not to laugh. They knew this routine. Rey Maddox versus Aziel Carter, round whatever the hell we're on. I scoffed, pushing off the crate. You act like the jet will explode if I breathe near it. It might, he said, still not looking up. You're good at testing limits and crossing safety boundaries. The thing is, it wasn't like this just today. Aziel Carter and I had been rubbing each other the wrong way since the first damn day he joined Titan. I still remember it. First week on the job, fresh ground staff mechanic, as well as an onboard engineering with that clean-cut attitude and zero patience for cocky pilots, I just landed a rough one. Adrenaline high, boots still wet from the tarmac, and he'd walked right up to me with a clipboard and said, "Next time, try landing on the runway instead of beside it." That was his introduction. No hi, I'm Aziel. No handshake. Just a jab delivered with that flat tone like he didn't even care if it pissed me off. And neither did he care that I have a strong influence here, since my father is a senior vice president of Titan. I'd grinned, of course. Didn't know ground staff gave flying lessons now? He'd looked me dead in the eye. Didn't know pilots needed them. And that was it. Our dynamic locked in place from day one. Every pre-flight, every inspection, every tiny argument about protocols. He'd talk in that calm, measured voice that made me want to throw a wrench just to see him react. And lately, I'd been doing exactly that. It wasn't about hating him anymore. Not really. It was about watching the way his composure cracked for half a second when I pushed too far. The tiny flicker in his eyes, the clipped inhale, the way his jaw twitched before he smoothed it out again. That half second felt like winning. Some guys get high from speed. I guess I got mine from seeing Aziel Carter lose control. Even if it was only once in a while. Even if I had no clue why I liked it so damn much. Done reminiscing. Aziel's voice cut back in, pulling me to the present. He'd finished his checks and was logging something on his tablet. You're clear to go, Captain. Try not to crash this one. Crash? I grinned. Please, I'm Titan's golden boy, and don't forget my father practically signs your department's budget. He finally looked up at me, those calm brown eyes meeting mine. Then I'll be sure to invoice the damages directly to him. That one hit deeper than I expected. He walked away without waiting for a response, leaving me standing there with the faint smell of engine grease and his words stuck in my head. I watched him cross the hangar, sleeves rolled up, clipboard under his arm. There was something irritatingly composed about him, like nothing could shake him, except maybe me, if I tried hard enough. And hell, I always tried. I climbed into the cockpit a few minutes later, flipping switches, tuning out the chatter on comms. But even with the engine roaring to life, my brain stayed stuck on that calm voice and the way he'd said pressure. By the time I took off, the hangar lights were shrinking below me, but I still found myself glancing at the empty co-pilot seat. Usually, someone sat there, sometimes a rookie, sometimes an assistant. But today, it was empty too quiet. I'd never realized how much space Aziel's voice filled in my head until it wasn't there. Maybe it was the silence that made me think too much. Maybe it was that stupid line about pressure. Whatever it was, the sky felt heavier that day. And as I leveled out above the clouds, I caught myself muttering under my breath, "He acts like he's the one flying the damn jet." But the truth hit me a second later. The sky was quieter than usual. I blamed the weather, not the mechanic I couldn't stop thinking about. Days later, it was way past midnight, and the hangar was quiet for once. No shouting, no engine noise, no crew dragging cables around. Just the hum of rain hitting the roof and the faint buzz of overhead lights. I should have been home hours ago. But here I was, pacing beside the jet I refused to let anyone else touch. The old model from the Athens charter. The one Aziel said needed a hydraulic system check. He'd been right, of course. The left actuator was showing pressure fluctuations, and I didn't trust any of the junior techs to fix it. Aziel was here too, crouched under the wing with his sleeves rolled up, flashlight balanced between his teeth, calm like always. His shirt was clinging to his back, soaked from the rain earlier, and his hands moved with steady precision. Like he didn't even feel the time or the exhaustion. I leaned against the ladder, watching him work. "You ever go home, Carter?" "Not when you keep breaking things," he said without looking up. His voice was tired, not cold, just real. "And why not let me fix the thing completely? You want to die or what?" "Maybe I do it on purpose. Keeps you around." That made him pause. He slowly pulled the flashlight out of his mouth, set it down, and gave me that flat look. The one that said he was debating whether to respond or just ignore me. "Try therapy for your attention issues," he said finally. "Why would I, when pissing you off works just as well?" His jaw twitched. I didn't know why, but lately that little crack in his composure had started to feel like oxygen. The rain tapped against the hangar roof, steady and soft. I looked at him, hair damp, eyes tired but focused, and something in my chest shifted, maybe. It had been shifting for a while. Because the truth was, it wasn't just tonight. A week ago, I'd been flirting with one of the flight attendants before takeoff. It wasn't serious. It never was. She'd been laughing too loud at something I said, touching my arm, and out of the corner of my eye, I'd seen Aziel standing near the hangar entrance, clipboard in hand. He wasn't watching me, not exactly. Just standing there, posture stiff, jaw locked tight. I thought I imagined it at first, the flicker of irritation that crossed his face. So I pushed it, pulled the attendant a little closer, said something that made her giggle again. That's when Aziel's voice cut through the air, calm but clipped. "Captain Maddox, if you're done playing social hour, the tire pressure's still off." The way he said it, too even, too measured, was a dead giveaway. The guy who could disarm chaos with one word suddenly sounded like he was holding something back. I'd smirked, couldn't help it. "You jealous, Carter?" His eyes met mine, unreadable. "Of what?" I shrugged. "Of anyone else touching me." His lips twitched. Not quite a smile, not quite denial. Just that silent, loaded second where neither of us said what we actually meant. Then he turned back to his checklist, like nothing happened. But I'd seen it. That flash of emotion before he locked it down again. And maybe that's why I was here now, watching him work in the middle of the night like I didn't have anywhere else to be. "You shouldn't be here," Aziel said suddenly, snapping me out of it. "You've got a flight at 0600. "Can't sleep." "Because?" "Because you said the hydraulics were unstable," I said simply. Hard to relax when the guy who keeps me alive sounds worried. He gave me a quick side glance. "I didn't say worried." "No, but you sounded like it." He went quiet again, tools clicking softly against metal. The air between us felt heavy, like the storm outside had snuck in and settled under the fuselage with us. After a minute, I crouched down beside him, pretending to check the panel. "You know, you don't have to keep fixing what I break." "I know," he said quietly, "but I do it anyway." That landed somewhere between my ribs, I wasn't sure what to do with it. He looked up then, and for a second, our faces were too close. His eyes catching the low yellow light, calm but tired, with something softer underneath. I broke the stare first, clearing my throat. You said it like it's personal. Maybe it is, he said, voice barely above the rain. I froze. Aziel never said things like that. Never let anything slip past that cool, professional wall. You're really bad at boundaries, Carter, I murmured, trying to lighten it, but my voice came out rougher than I meant. He met my eyes again. And you're really bad at pretending you don't need people. That hit harder than I wanted to admit. The hangar felt too quiet after that. Every sound, the rain, the creak of metal, my own breathing, seemed amplified. He shifted back to grab a wrench, and our shoulders brushed. Just a small touch, but it jolted through me. I didn't move away. Neither did. Rey, he said softly, warning in his tone. What? This isn't professional? I cut in. Yeah, I got that part. He sighed, setting the wrench down. You're impossible. Funny, you say that like it's not what keeps us alive. That made him almost smile. Almost. The corner of his mouth twitched before he smoothed it out again. Stop looking at me like that, he muttered, focusing back on the valve. Like what? Like you're waiting for something to happen. I laughed under my breath. Maybe I am. He looked at me again then. Really looked. His hand still on the open panel, mine gripping the edge of the wing beside him. There was nothing dramatic about it. Nothing cinematic. Just rain, fatigue, and two men who'd been orbiting each other too long to pretend anymore. Rey, he said again, quieter this time. I didn't let him finish. I leaned in before I could think better of it. Just lips brushing softly. I waited, gave him to pull back, and when he didn't, I pressed my lips firmly on his. The kiss wasn't perfect. It wasn't gentle either. It was tired and rough and charged with every unsaid thing between us. His hand came up instinctively, maybe to push me away, maybe not. But when I felt his fingers curl against my shoulder, I knew. He didn't want to stop either. When we finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, he stared at me like he was trying to process what just happened. This didn't happen, he said after a moment, voice low. Sure, I said, staring at his lips. Then why are you shaking? He glared, but it wasn't convincing. Because you're a reckless idiot. And yet, I said softly, you keep saving me. He pushed past me, grabbed his tablet, and started packing up tools like nothing happened. His movements were fast, almost harsh. Aziel, I called. He didn't turn around. Go home, Captain. When he finally walked away, the hangar doors creaked shut behind him, leaving me standing there with the hum of the engines cooling and the taste of him still on my lips. For once, I didn't have a snarky comeback. I just sat on the metal steps, staring at the reflection of rain on the floor, and realized something I didn't want to admit. It wasn't just about adrenaline anymore. It wasn't even about winning. Somewhere between all the fights and the tension, I'd started wanting him around for reasons I couldn't joke my way out of, and that scared the hell out of me. A week later. It had been a week since that night in the hangar, a week since I kissed Aziel Carter, and he told me it didn't happen. We hadn't talked about it since not once. Not in the crew briefings, not in the maintenance checks, not in the endless hours we shared inside this flying metal box, but it lingered, like the hum of an engine that never quite powers down. I'd catch him looking sometimes, just a flicker, before he looked away like it burned, and I'd do the same. Pretend it didn't matter. Pretend I wasn't thinking about the way he tasted when I should have been focusing on takeoff clearance. Yeah, pretending had become my new job description. We were mid-flight to Athens. Night sky stretched out in every direction. Cabin lights dimmed. Passengers sleeping. The hum of the autopilot was steady. For once, things were quiet. I just leaned back in the cockpit, about to close my eyes for a second, when it happened. A sudden lurch, A sound I knew too well. A groan from the left engine that shouldn't have been there. Shit, I muttered, sitting up straight. Warning lights blinked across the panel hydraulic pressure again. The system had cleared every pre-flight check. The fault must have been buried deep. One of those hairline cracks that only showed itself once the air pressure climbed this high, of course. I only had it fixed temporarily. Even after Aziel's countless warnings, he'd wanted to replace it completely, but I'd pushed for a temporary fix to keep the flight on schedule. Now, staring at the blinking red lights, I knew I should have listened. Control. This is Titan 8 requesting immediate... Before I could finish, the cockpit door swung open. Aziel, pale, calm, already strapping into the jump seat beside me. I saw the warning light, he said. What's the status? You were in the jet? I was in disbelief at his presence. You forgot I am an onboard engineer as well? And by the way, I couldn't let your trouble magnetic adrenaline crash in midair. Now status? His reply made me want to scream, but I took a deep, shaky breath to calm my nerves down. Hydraulics. Same system you patched last week, I said, gripping the yoke harder than necessary. His eyes flicked to the readouts. Pressure loss in the secondary line, manual override. Already tried. He exhaled slowly, scanning the instruments like he was mapping his way through chaos. Okay, then we go mechanical. Aziel, that's a mid-air fix! I knew it would happen. That's why I'm here, he said sharply. You just keep her level. My pulse was thudding in my throat. You're out of your damn mind. He looked at me, calm as always. You should have listened to me the last time when I told you to let me repair it completely. Now deal with it. I didn't know if I wanted to punch him or kiss him again. He was already out of his seat, crawling toward the maintenance access panel by the cockpit wall. Turbulence rocked the plane, and I heard the soft thud of his wrench hitting metal. Aziel! Focus, Rey! He snapped, without looking up. Something about his tone, firm, confident, like nothing could touch him, pulled me back from the edge. My training kicked in. My hands steadied altitude check. Stabilizers responsive. We had maybe 10 minutes before the left engine started to fail completely. The cabin speakers crackled. An air hostess's voice came through, faint and anxious. Captain, what's happening? Passengers are getting restless. Tell them it's turbulence, I said, voice level. And make sure everyone's belted in. We're handling it. I could feel Aziel's presence behind me, the soft sound of tools and curses under his breath. Then a jolt. The plane dipped hard, alarm screaming. My stomach dropped. Aziel! Almost there! Define almost. Now! He barked. Switch to manual reserve. I slammed the lever, and for a second, nothing happened. Just alarms and flashing red, and the sound of my own breathing. Then, silence. The lights steadied. The hum returned, pressure stabilizing. I didn't realize I'd been gripping the yoke so tightly until my knuckles ached. He slumped back into his seat, wiping sweat from his forehead. That should hold. I let out a shaky laugh. You really love giving me heart attacks, don't you? Just keeping your ego humble. Now you know why I kept insisting on getting your baby jet fixed. For a moment, we both sat there, catching our breath. The cockpit lights glowed soft blue, rain streaking the windows. Everything felt too still. I turned to him. You could have gotten hurt. I knew what I was doing. You always know. Doesn't mean it's not reckless. He gave a tired smile. That's rich, coming from you. I should have laughed, should have kept it light like always. But the words didn't come. I just kept staring at him, at the smudge of grease on his jaw, at the way his hand trembled slightly on his thigh. You were scared, I said quietly. He froze. What? When the engine cut out, you were scared. He looked at me then, eyes steady, but voice soft. Everyone gets scared, Rey. Not you. You just don't notice when I do. That shut me up. The hum of the plane filled the silence. I looked away, jaw tight. So what now? He leaned back, closing his eyes. "Now, you fly us home." "I meant after this," I said. After what?" I hesitated. "After the kiss." His eyes opened slowly. He didn't look surprised, just tired. "Rey, don't do that," I said. "Don't act like it didn't mean anything. You said it didn't happen, but I know you felt it." He stared straight ahead, voice low. "You think everything has to mean something." "Yeah, because when it comes to you, it does." That finally got a reaction. His breath hitched, just a little. "You shouldn't say things like that," he said quietly. "Why not?" "Because I might believe you." For a second, I forgot how to breathe. We hit a patch of light turbulence then, but neither of us moved. The world outside could have been burning, and I still wouldn't have looked away. He turned his head, eyes meeting mine. The same look from the hangar, sharp, restrained, full of everything he refused to say out loud. "Aziel!" I started, but the cockpit door clicked open. The co-pilot stuck his head in, oblivious. Captain? Passengers are calm now. Everything good?" I cleared my throat, forcing composure. "All good. Thanks." The door shut again. The moment was gone. Aziel looked away, voice barely above a whisper. "Focus on landing. We'll talk after." I saw the flicker in his eyes, the one from that night in the hangar. And this time, I knew I wasn't imagining it. Because beneath all that calm, beneath the steady voice and the precision and the walls he built around himself, Aziel Carter was shaking too, just like me. 2 weeks later, 17 days. Not that I was counting. Okay, I was. I walked into the briefing room with a headache forming behind my eyes and a mood that could set off a smoke alarm. Aziel was already there, standing near the front table, flipping through his tablet like it was the only thing in the world that deserved his attention. Yeah. He was still pretending. Pretending the kiss meant nothing. Pretending that midair. Chaos didn't shake him. Pretending he didn't say, "We'll talk after." Spoiler, we never talked. And he'd spent the last 2 weeks giving me polite nods and dead silence. It pissed me off. It hurt more. So I did what I do best. I flirted. With anyone who wasn't him. A flight attendant, a junior mechanic, some pretty intern who giggled too easily. Each time, I'd see Aziel look up, glance once, then look away like I was background noise. Except once. Last week, I leaned a little too close to the brunette flight attendant during safety checks. She laughed, brushing my sleeve. It was harmless, stupid, nothing I actually cared about. But Aziel had been standing a few feet away. He'd stiffened, just slightly. "You done?" he'd asked, voice clipped. "Didn't realize you were watching," I'd answered. I wasn't. Right. He walked off so fast, I barely saw the way his jaw clenched. And that tiny reaction? God, it fed me for days. Pathetic. I know. Today was different, though. Today, there was someone new. Camden Road's Titan's shiny new pilot. Younger than me, painfully charming, the kind of guy who'd look good on safety posters. And for some reason, he'd decided Aziel was his new best friend. When I walked in, Camden was leaning against the desk, talking to Aziel like they'd known each other for years. "So, you really memorize all the maintenance protocols?" Camden asked. Aziel nodded, not looking up. "It's my job." "That's insane," Camden laughed. "Like Titan's favorite rule book." Aziel actually chuckled. Soft, barely there, but loud enough to crack something in my chest. I froze mid-step. Aziel didn't laugh at people. He tolerated. He smirked. He gave tight exhales that counted as amusement. But that, right now, that was a laugh. For Camden. Not me. Something hot and ugly lurched in my stomach. Before I could even think, I crossed the room. Camden noticed me and grinned like we were friends. "Captain Maddox, we were just talking about your Athens flight. Aziel said you pulled off a manual landing after a system fault. Risky move, huh? Aziel's head snapped toward Camden. I didn't... But Camden laughed over him. No, all good. Said you like to improvise midair. Guess that's your signature, huh? The room froze. Aziel looked like he wanted to melt into the floor. His jaw tightened, eyes dropping for half a second. Guilty, or just tired of the conversation. That did it. I stepped closer, voice low but sharp enough to cut through the static hum of the AC. You don't question my mechanic about how I fly. The words came out sharp, too possessive. They sliced through the room. Aziel's head snapped up, his expression cold, unflinching, unfamiliar. I'm not your mechanic, Captain. Just 6 words, but they hit like a punch straight to the ribs. The room went dead silent. I swallowed. Aziel! No, he cut me off. Start the briefing. I stared at him, my heart thudding stupidly loud, but his eyes didn't soften. He didn't look away. He just shut me out. And for the first time, I realized something. I wasn't clashing with him anymore. I was losing him. The briefing blurred by. I couldn't focus on a damn thing. My jaw hurt from how tightly I was grinding it. Camden kept giving me cautious side glances, but I ignored him. When it ended, I stormed out so fast my chair nearly toppled. In the locker room, I braced my hands on the sink, staring at my reflection. Not my mechanic, huh? I muttered it again, louder. Not my mechanic. It shouldn't have stung. It shouldn't have mattered. But God, it did worse than any mechanical failure. Worse than turbulence. Worse than anything he'd ever said to me. Because the truth was, I wanted him to be mine. Not in some claim-on-your-name way. Just someone who saw me. Who reacted to me. Who didn't look at anyone else the way I wanted him to look at me. And he didn't. Not anymore. The next few days were hell. Aziel avoided me with ruthless efficiency. No sarcasm, no arguments, no clipped little huffs when I pushed too far. Nothing. Just polite professionalism. The exact thing I'd never wanted from him. And me? I started messing up. Tiny errors. Slipping altitude by 100 feet. Missing a call from ATC. Forgetting to log a post-flight check. I never did that. Ever. My co-pilot nudged me during one flight. You good, Captain? Yeah, I lied. Just tired. But fatigue wasn't the problem. Silence was. Every cockpit felt emptier without the sound of Aziel's voice in my head. And knee. And then came the worst part. I was heading through the maintenance bay, helmet in hand, when I saw him. Aziel. Leaning against a workbench, smiling. Real smiling. At Camden. Camden said something, and Aziel laughed. Not the soft, tight one. A real one. The kind that lifted his shoulders. Slightly. And something inside me just broke. I froze. Couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Because Aziel used to look at me like I was trouble. Like I annoyed him. Like I got under his skin. Now? He didn't look at me at all. Weeks later. The rain had been hitting the hangar roof for hours, steady, relentless, like it was mocking how long I'd been sitting here another night. Another cigarette is burning out beside me. Another hour without Aziel Carter. He'd been gone from my flights for a month now. Reassigned to Camden. Management called it team redistribution. I called it punishment. My father called it mercy. I hadn't slept properly since I kept coming back here. To the same goddamn jet we used to fight over. It still smelled faintly of him. Oil, soap, metal, Aziel. Every time I tried to start the engine, I'd stop, halfway couldn't fly it. Not without him. Then, sometime past midnight, my phone buzzed on the workbench. Flight 719, hydraulic failure. I froze Camden's flight. The same model that I refused anyone to touch. But now, management has assigned Camden to fly. The same goddamn system Aziel once told me needed a full replacement. The one I argued didn't. My lungs forgot how to work. I hit the tower frequency, and the radio came alive with static. Then, his voice. Aziel. Calm. Steady. Not a crack in his tone. Hold your pressure, Camden. Don't overcorrect. You've got it. My heart thudded so hard, it felt like the sound could drown him out. He was doing it again, saving someone midair, the same way he'd saved me. Come on, Carter, I whispered, pressing my forehead against the console. Don't die fixing my mistake. Minutes stretched like hours. Then the control room burst into cheers. Flight 719 landed safely. I let out a laugh that felt like relief and pain tangled together. But it didn't last. By morning, the hangar was chaos. Titan's board had launched an investigation. Turns out, the hydraulic stress, it came from my last Athens flight, the one Aziel had flagged for inspection, the one I brushed off as minor pressure fluctuations. Apparently, the maintenance report Aziel filed never synced into the main Titan system due to a corrupted log file. So, officially, there was no record of the fault. And now, somehow, they were pinning the report failure on him. I didn't think. I didn't plan. I just walked straight into the boardroom mid-meeting, still in my grease-stained flight jacket. The room went quiet the second I stepped in, 10 suits and polished shoes around a long glass table. At the far end, my father, Thomas Maddox, Titan's Senior Vice President of Flight Operations. The same man who'd once told me, emotion has no place in the cockpit. Captain Maddox, one of the board members started stiffly. This is a restricted, then unrestricted, I snapped, slamming my badge down on the table. Because if you fire him, you lose the only reason any of us land alive. My father's jaw flexed. Rey, you're out of line. No, I'm not. My voice came out rough, sharp. You're all so desperate to keep Titan's image clean, you'll throw your best engineer under the damn plane for something that wasn't even his fault. The head of operations frowned. Captain, that's an accusation. It's the truth, I cut in. The Athens charter was cleared under my call. Aziel wanted the full hydraulic system replaced, but I pushed for a temporary fix because the aircraft was scheduled for a VIP flight, and I looked straight at my father. You told me to keep the delay off the books. The silence that followed was suffocating. My father's expression didn't change, but I saw the muscle in his cheek twitch. You're treading dangerously close to insubordination. Then maybe that's where I live now, I said. Across the table, Aziel stood near the back wall, still in his blue Titan coveralls. His shoulders were square, but his eyes looked hollow. Mr. Carter, one of the board members said, you failed to ensure your maintenance report was uploaded to Titan's database. Is that correct? Aziel opened his mouth, but I cut in before he could. No, it's not. The system crashed mid-upload. IT logs prove it. You all just need a scapegoat to make the paperwork look clean. Captain, my father snapped, voice sharp enough to slice through the air. That's enough. No, I said, stepping closer to the table. What's enough is blaming the only man who's ever kept your pilots alive while you're too busy protecting your nameplates. Someone muttered something about professional boundaries. I didn't care. My voice shook as I pointed toward Aziel. He saved Flight 719. He's the reason Camden Rhodes is still breathing, and the reason I ever was, too. My father exhaled slowly, leaning back in his chair. You're suspended. Effective immediately. I'll handle the rest. I expected anger, but all I felt was exhaustion. I glanced at Aziel, still silent, still holding himself like he didn't belong in the same room as any of us. Yeah? I said, picking up my badge. You handle it, Dad. Just like you handle everything else. You don't want to admit it's broken. Then I walked out. That night, I went back to the hangar anyway. The rain hadn't stopped. It was louder this time, like the whole world was trying to wash the day off. I climbed into the jet we used to share and sat in the cockpit, head in my hands. Everything was quiet, except the rain and the hum of the emergency light. I didn't hear him at first. Then, soft footsteps. You shouldn't have done that. Aziel's voice, low, wet hair plastered to his forehead, shirt sticking to his skin. I didn't look up. You think I did it for you? He sighed, stepping closer. Didn't you? I lifted my head, finally meeting his eyes. I did it because I'm a better pilot when you're beside me. Without you, I'm just noise. Something flickered in his face. Anger, confusion, something softer beneath it. He sat down next to me, close enough that our shoulders almost brushed. For a long moment, neither of us said a word. The rain filled the silence between us. Then he spoke quietly. You scare the hell out of me. Good, I said, managing a broken laugh. You make me feel something I don't know how to fly through. He stared straight ahead, hands clasped. Rey, I didn't want a distraction at work. My entire life I've stayed in control. Order, systems, rules. But you, his breath hitched, you make me want to throw it all away. Then throw it, I said softly. He turned, meeting my eyes. It's not that simple. Yeah, I whispered. It is. You don't have to fix me, Aziel. Just don't walk away when I'm trying to fix myself. He exhaled slowly. You think I haven't wanted to stop avoiding this? Then why are we still pretending we don't want the same thing? His gaze softened. Because I don't know how to want like this. You pull me out of everything safe. I smiled faintly. That's because everything safe is boring. That got the tiniest laugh out of him. Real, quiet, almost tired. Rey, he murmured, you're chaos. And somehow you make sense to me. Yeah, I asked, leaning just a little closer. Your control. And somehow I need that to breathe. We just sat there, breathing the same air, the storm still raging outside. The space between us felt different now, not like it used to, charged and defiant. This time it was quiet. Real. He shifted closer, barely an inch, his forehead pressing against mine. No kiss, no words, just warmth. Breath. The sound of rain fills all the places words couldn't. For a moment, the world stilled. His hand found mine, hesitant but sure. I don't know where this goes, he whispered. Me neither, I said. But I'm done pretending it's not there. He nodded once, eyes closing. Then we go slow. Slow's fine, I murmured, as long as it's with you. And that was it. No grand confession, no dramatic music, just two tired idiots sitting in a storm, trying to meet in the middle. For once, I didn't need to fly, I just needed him beside me. Epilogue. 3 months in. It had been 3 weeks since they'd grounded me. 3 weeks of silence, restless nights, and unanswered calls. Then one morning, my father showed up at my place, unannounced. Still in his work suit, still looking like the man who ran half the goddamn sky. He didn't knock. He just walked in and dropped a sealed Titan envelope on the counter. Your suspension's revoked, he said flatly. I blinked. What? Effective immediately. He poured himself coffee like it was a normal day. You're reinstated. Limited flights for the next quarter. I frowned. You pulled strings again? His eyes flicked up. Wasn't me this time. He sipped the coffee. It was Carter. My stomach twisted. Aziel? He nodded once. He was cleared after a secondary review. Apparently, the tech department confirmed his report upload failed due to a Titan link fault. He requested to appear before the board again, this time to appeal your suspension. I stared at him. He did what? My father sighed, rubbing the bridge of his nose. You don't make it easy for people to stand by you, Rey, but that man did. He didn't just save your reputation. He made me realize how much rots under my own roof. That last sentence caught me off guard. He never spoke like that. He looked tired, older somehow. Our systems are supposed to prevent this kind of negligence, he said quietly. But somewhere along the way, we started looking for scapegoats instead of solutions Aziel made that painfully clear to every executive in that room. I swallowed. And you let them blame him. First, he didn't flinch. I did what I've always done. Protected the company. Protected you. Maybe that was the mistake. For a moment, the only sound in the house was the ticking of the wall clock. Then he straightened his tie, voice quieter. You get one more chance. Don't waste it. And tell Carter the board owes him an apology. I nodded slowly. Yeah, I'll tell him. He turned to leave but stopped at the door. I met him once before, you know, he said, almost to himself. Sharp kid reminded me of you. Only difference, he gives a damn about people. Then he left, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel angry at him. Just seen. When I showed up, Aziel was already in the hangar, sleeves rolled, clipboard in hand, like nothing ever happened. I stood there for a second, watching him. You talked to my father, I said. Aziel gave a small shrug. He asked for the full report. I explained the situation. The repair was done temporarily to keep the flight schedule. The fault was hidden deep in the system, and there was no pilot error. He listened. I exhaled, trying not to show how much that hit. He told me today, said you went through the board appeal just to clear my name. Aziel finally looked up as I continued. He said Titan owes you an apology. He waved it off. You're here. That's enough. I stepped closer, voice low. Why'd you do it, Aziel? His voice softened. Because you're the best pilot I've ever worked with, Captain Maddox. And because... He stopped himself, turning away. Forget it. Because what? I asked quietly. He sighed. Because I didn't like the hangar without you in it. Months later, we worked. Together, slowly. Every look, every touch, a small confession. One night, after a 5-day charter, I came back to the hangar exhausted. He was already there, arms crossed, eyes narrowed. You look like hell, he said. And you look like you've been waiting to berate me for being late, I replied, dropping my bag. Maybe I have, he said, stepping closer. Did you even think about me while you were gone? Every damn second, I admitted, voice low. He smiled, eyes soft. Figures. You always did like making me wait. Guess I wanted to see if you cared, I said, closing the distance. You're an idiot, he muttered. But yes, I cared. Still do. We started falling into a rhythm after that. He'd show up early, coffee in hand, pretending it wasn't for me. I'd bring him late-night sandwiches on maintenance shifts and pretend I was just hungry. Neither of us said anything, but we didn't have to. It was in the way he'd glance up every time I laughed too loudly across the hangar. The way I'd linger when he was working under a wing, pretending I needed to check something. Then came that night. I was an hour into a private charter. The weather was clear at takeoff, stars sharp against a black sky. Midway through the route, a warning light blinked red. Engine temperature spike, I checked the readings. Cooling system malfunction. The left turbine was overheating fast. Static. Then his voice. Maddox, I'm reading rising temps on your #1 engine confirm. Confirmed, I said, pulse spiking. Coolant flows dropping. Kill the throttle. Reroute through the auxiliary system. Already did, still climbing. A pause. Then his voice dropped, quieter, tense. Rey, if that turbine ignites... I did. Nothing. I know. I forced a grin he couldn't see. Tell my mom I went out in style. Don't, he snapped. His tone cracked, just slightly. Don't say that. Not tonight. Aziel, I mean it. His voice wavered, then steadied, rough with emotion. You listen to me. Drop altitude, bleed speed, and keep that left engine alive long enough to get her home. You hear me? I smiled, because even through static and chaos, he sounded like home. Copy that, Captain Clipboard. He didn't even groan this time, just whispered, don't you dare not come back. I landed, barely, but I did. When I climbed down, the storm hadn't stopped. Before I could even take a breath, Aziel was running toward me. No jacket, no hesitation, rain soaking through his shirt. He grabbed me by the collar, eyes wild, You idiot! You said you'd come back in one piece! I grinned weakly. I did. Look, barely a scratch. His chest heaved. You scared the hell out of me. I stepped closer. You scare me every day because I actually give a damn what you think. His eyes softened, rain dripping off his lashes. You're impossible. Yeah, but you still love me, don't you? I whispered. He exhaled, trembling. Yeah, I do. God help me, I do. And before I could make another joke, he kissed me. Urgent, wet, messy, perfect. The rain, the hangar, the chaos. It all faded. For once, I didn't need to fly. I'd already found home. Right there, in his arms. The end. Ever been stuck in a moment where someone drives you crazy, but you secretly can't live without them? Tell us your story. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to become part of our Rainbow Force, and consider joining our membership for early access and exclusive content. Stay wholesome.